9:22 exactly. Welcome back. News and views with me, Julie Ali, and we are now going to be honing in on a political analyst. That is you, Sandile Swana. You are a political analyst, and the big story of the day, undoubtedly all around the country, that is, of course, the Eastern Cape Conference, which is on knife's edge as Mabuyane and Madikizela factions do battle. What's happened up to this point in time, what has played out? We've been hearing all sorts of crazy things like issues about people being paid for their votes, and a whole host of other shenanigans going on. What does that then say about the elective conference coming up in December and the in 2024, the general election? Is President Cyril Ramaphosa safe enough to stand a second term? What do we read from this Eastern Cape Conference? I think it is kind of a yardstick to give us an indication of what is going to play out at the conference at the end of the year, and then in 2 years' time with the general election. And over and above of all of that, Sanjay, what is also very worrying is the killing of councillors. They're being shot down like flies. That's a very worrying trend, is it not?
Yeah, with your commentary is loaded.
Absolutely.
But let's start with the key issue. I believe that Cyril Ramaphosa's second term of office as president of the African National Congress and president of South Africa is fully secure. I don't think there's any problem with that. Cyril Ramaphosa was put into office by what was called the Premier League, which today would be regarded as the RET forces minus DD Mabuza. And he was put into office to be the sheepskin on the wolf, because the ANC before 2012 was becoming less and less popular with investors and business, and they needed someone who could bring some form of legitimacy to the ANC, literally the sheepskin on the wolf, because the wolf would then continue eating and ravaging, but he would then be that. So from that point of view, as a cover for the ANC, all factions want him there. Those who want to continue with crimes want him there. Those who want some changes also want him there. So I think he's in a safe position. In the Eastern Cape, it is relevant that the top six, the people who are there to consider who must get also into the top six of the ANC. So if you can manipulate the Eastern Cape Conference so that it favors a particular slate, then you are securing your interest in the CR20, in the election of 2022 in the ANC. In the build-up to these elections, the competition for positions at local level has indeed meant that some of the people could not make it to the conference because they were shot dead before coming to the conference in the various branch level contestations. Even in the conference itself, the conference has spent about 3 days trying to start, in essence. But as to who should be in the conference and who should be allowed to vote in the conference, I believe has just been about resolved now. I gathered before coming to this interview that voting has now started, which means it took them 3 days on the venue, fighting with each other, not being able to know who's a legitimate delegate to that conference. And those who were disqualified had to be somehow smuggled in by one faction or the other in order to strengthen its hand.
Okay, there was mumblings about a court case, that the issue was going to be taken to court. Is that off the table now? Are they all ready and raring to go?
We don't know if that is off the table, because the court case was stopped because of lack of agency. The court said the issue can be resolved at a later date. So the people who wanted to take issues, and the issues are about fake members, fake branches, and illegitimate people who are being mobilized to participate in the conference to bolster more, especially Oscar Mabuyane, the current chairman and the current premier. So, so that case can still go on at a later date.
The assassination or killings of councillors, how seriously do you view that? How seriously is government taking that situation? Because you can't just go around randomly killing of people because you don't believe in their politics or you don't want them to be elected in place. Um, Really, being in this space is truly dangerous for you and your family. Who would want to be in a space like that?
You will remember that the killing, political killings, there's been even an inquiry into political killings in South Africa, but nobody gets arrested for political killings in South Africa in the democratic era. A lot of people have been killed since 1994 for political reasons. A lot of people were killed in the Eastern Cape before 1994 for political reasons by the UDF, when the UDF was cleansing, removing, destroying AZAPO and the Black Consciousness Movement in the Unity and PE area. They killed people. So that culture of killing people for political reasons is well established, especially in the PE Unity area, the Nelson Mandela Bay area. They know that very well. Lately, the gangsters in the mafia gangs in the Eastern Cape, more especially the Port Elizabeth area, have now teamed up with politicians to intimidate other politicians and to commit other crimes in assisting or hindering the political process.
It's very worrying indeed. Do you think that Cyril Ramaphosa or the powers that are in force would be able to curb these political killings? I mean, it can't carry on unabated. Uh, you look at councillors, you look at ministers, and you kind of wonder: are they prepared to risk their lives? To go forth and play this dangerous political game.
I think that in very broad terms, living in South Africa is very dangerous. The law has collapsed in South Africa. Police and police stations no longer do their job. It's not just being a political activist or a politician that puts you in danger of death. Living in South Africa, which is almost a failed state by now, is a very dangerous decision. A lot of us have got pending cases, including myself, of assault with the intent to do grievous bodily harm, which are being hindered by the police rather than being assisted. So the killing of the daughter of Gandhi, of the former Secretary General of the EFF. So the killing of a person in South Africa is as good as eating breakfast. It is a non-event to the powers that be, to President Cyril Ramaphosa, to the ANC government. The collapse of crime. You remember that was the same nation that produced the first African chief of Interpol, who himself ended up in prison for corruption. So the corruption of our policing system and crime prevention system has been taking place under the ANC in an accelerated form over many years. It's not new. So there's nobody gets arrested here for killing a politician or for killing anybody. It's a very small number. If you look closely at the statistics, the cases that remain open or don't go anywhere are more than the cases that are successfully prosecuted by far.
Okay, so Sandile, let's look at 2, 3 other issues here that are very pertinent to the conference playing out right now, and then the elective conference in December, and also obviously the general election in 2 years' time. Let's look at the so-called Hani Cabal. We do know that it's a reference to prominent leaders from the province's second biggest region. They were influential in working to ensure that Mabuyane returned to power. How is that going to play out? There's the question of Zweli Mkhize. And we need to come back to RET and the wolf in sheep's clothing. What's it saying to the rest of South Africa? What's it saying to the other political parties? Where and how does the EFF and Lindiwe Sisulu figure in all of this? Because she was quite scathing on Cyril Ramaphosa a little while ago regarding RET issues and policies.
Um, we must remember that RET has got two connotations, if we want to start there. There's RET, which is a resolution, a conference resolution of the ANC regarding how their approach to economic policy, etc., should be handled. So it's in the official minutes, conference minutes, that RET is a program that the ANC wants to pursue, the ANC. Then there is a faction within the ANC that has said the leadership of the elected leadership of Cyril Ramaphosa is not paying attention to those resolutions of the conference, the RET resolution. So they then became what were called the RET forces. Unfortunately for them, the concept of RET has been skillfully weaved together by publicists and other interested parties with the history of crime of the African National Congress. You remember that the arms deal, for instance, in the ANC was done long before we talked about RET. Silebi was convicted of corruption as head of police long before there was there are many crimes, economic crimes and other types of crimes that were going on in the ANC. And a lot of what Zondo has uncovered started long before any RET discussion ever happened in the ANC. However, unfortunately for them, the entire basket of corruption has now been linked to the RET, as if the RET forces are the one who started corruption in the ANC and persecuted it, which is not true. There has been the criticism against Ramaphosa specifically has revolved around his failure to implement RET and his neoliberal policies and so on and so forth by his own comrades. And some of those comrades are not even regarded as RET. There are many other people, including Anne Bernstein, Thabo Mbeki, Padile Hutla, the former statistician general, and other senior ANC cadres who have criticized Ramaphosa for Marikana, who have criticized Ramaphosa for the lack of an economic plan. In South Africa today, Thabo Mbeki and Bernstein and Padile Hutla have made it clear that there is no economic policy. So there's been a general culture of incompetence, poor performance, and increasing corruption under Cyril Ramaphosa, which warrants criticism. For example, the theft of COVID-19 funds and the crisis in KZN under the floods, where money had to rather be given to the gift of givers because people are sick and tired of giving any responsibility of such a nature to the government. So the criticism by Sisulu in some parts of it is quite relevant. The only irony about it is that Sisulu has been a poor performer, a consistent poor performer in her own right, and a member of the cabinet of Ramaphosa, and a member of almost every cabinet in South Africa. Julius Malema has got his own errors of understanding, but he has got a very good platform for criticizing Ramaphosa and the ANC generally, because we all know that the ANC is losing votes, is losing popularity with common citizens. The ANC is well known for incompetence. The ANC is well known for corruption. The ANC is well known for poor performance. So you would have to be really, really stupid not to know how to criticize the ANC or to criticize Ramaphosa.
Clearly, you're not an ANC supporter. What what are the chances of the ANC coming into power in 2 years' time? What's the scenario going to look like then? And I'm thinking EFF. Uh, He's making big noises. The leader of the EFF is making big noises. He's got a lot of young people on board with him. He's pushing EFF in a very big way. Do you think that come 2024, we're going to see coalition governments? Do you think that ANC will lose lots of its votes, and perhaps a new government will be in place? But does that obviously that's not going to guarantee that we're not going to have mass scale corruption like we have currently.
I think that if you look at the statistics and you look at the trends, even the trends that were being read out by Gwede Mantashe in the Eastern Cape ANC conference, in the Eastern Cape, which is really one of the core provinces of the ANC, since the departure of Thabo Mbeki from power, the ANC has been consistent, since the Polokwane conference, has been consistently losing support in the Eastern Cape. So that has been acknowledged by Gwede Mantashe after reading the statistics at the IEC Independent Electoral Commission. So if you and I were to read the electoral statistics for municipal elections, national elections since the Polokwane conference, the trend is downward. So the question would be, if the actual statistics from the IEC are pointing a downward trend, then what is the basis for you to say the ANC will improve in the next election? When since 2007, in every type of election, whether it's local government or national, they've been losing support. And they've not been able to grow beyond 11 million voters. Instead, they've been going down. So the last time they enjoyed support was under Thabo Mbeki. So my prediction, based on the results that they have achieved at the IEC that are on record, is that they will continue the trend in 2024 and head towards 40% of the vote in South Africa as a whole. And then that will necessitate a coalition government which can take many forms. One of the forms can be the DA and the ANC forming a coalition, or the DA forming a coalition as it has done in other metros with other political parties. The EFF, for the first time in its history, is starting to win ones, which means there are people who can trust, or experienced politicians who can entrust their careers with the EFF by joining the EFF as experienced ward councillors and actually winning wards on behalf of the EFF. So you should expect that the EFF in the coming years, 2 years, 3 years, it should change and be a party that is concerning itself with administrative matters, because it doesn't help to be around politics and not being able to administrate anything. So the politics of the EFF, I expect them to start changing a little bit. And lastly,
Yes.
expect that Action SA should start gaining a lot and changing the complexion of South African politics.
And undoubtedly, that's a party we're going to be watching very, very closely, because Herman Mashaba is promising a lot. So let's see how that pans out. Sandile Swana, thank you indeed for your insights on the Eastern Cape Conference, and going forward to the elective conference in December and 2024, obviously the elections in the country. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of this play out. Undoubtedly, we will be talking lots more leading up to all of those amazing and major events in South Africa. You go well. Thank you once again. It is 9:41 right here on News and Views with me, Julie Ali.